What we'll cover today will be just very briefly an introduction to the ISBSG and a little extension on what I spoke about a few minutes ago. Primarily we're going to talk about maintenance and support, of course, and I will do an introduction to the maintenance and support repository, which is the database of information that we have about maintenance and support. Then I want to give you some views of the maintenance and support data, and then cover each of the specialist areas, if you like, to call it that, the information about corrective maintenance, effective and adaptive maintenance, or enhancements, as they can be called, and then we'll have a look at support. And also I'll give you some information about the resources, the ISBSG, and what you can use and what you can do with the data. So, just some definitions first, so that while we go through the talk, you've got a reasonable idea of what I'm talking about. The ISBSG is the International Software Benchmarking Standards Group. I'll give you a little more information about that shortly. I didn't choose that name, I'm pleased to say, but it's far too late for us to change it now because it's quite well known, so we just stick with the ISBSG. We have two repositories, which I'll mention shortly, and the main development and enhancement repository, we use functional size measurement in there, so FSM and function points, a lot of you will be aware of. And of course, logical lines of code is a very good measurement for our support and maintenance applications. So we have a mixture of those in this presentation, and I'll explain them as we go along. And then I've got a couple of mentions here of the definition of defects and incidents, and there is a glossary of terms that you can download free from the ISBSG website. And just while we mentioned that, the ISBSG website has a lot of free information on it. So please have a look at the website, and it may be helpful for you to download things like the glossary of terms and even the data collection package, which is a series of questions about what we think are the most important pieces of data to collect for your maintenance and support. The mission of the ISBSG is pretty straightforward. We're established simply to improve, or attempt to improve, the management of IT resources. And we do that, the way we go about it is to build public repositories of data, software engineering knowledge we've called it here, and to try and get very good data, verify it, make sure it's up to date, and it reflects current technologies. So we create it initially, we build and we grow, and we now maintain, and I've used the word exploit, and what we mean there is that we do analysis on the data for both maintenance and support, and we refer to obviously to applications within there, and in the development and enhancement repository we refer to projects. Our principles are fairly straightforward. The difference between us and other people that have data is that we are totally independent. We're a not-for-profit. We have no shareholders as such that are businesses, so we are not influenced by any commercial organization in the sense of directing us as to what we should do. We get help from commercial organizations, but we remain independent. We've put a lot of effort into ensuring that we have high integrity with our data. Naturally, people that submit data to us want to remain anonymous, and we've got an excellent track record with never having a problem with that. And we're driven by practitioners, by people in the industry who advise us and guide us as to what we should collect and what analysis we should do. And we try to make our data accessible to anyone for a reasonable fee, enough that we can continue to survive and do good work, but hopefully sensibly priced so that it's affordable. There are very few places where you can get access to data. Lots of organizations have data, but they will only give you analysis reports. You can't look at the data and make your own decisions about how good it is. We have very high security procedures and standards. and validation, obviously. So when people send us data, we validate that data, we put it in the repository, we produce a free report which we send to you with some comments. So we'll rate the data. We have a rating of A, B, C or D. And then we'll ask for resubmission if we're missing some minor data, let's say, and we can move your project from a B to an A rating. And if you resubmit, then we'll re-rate that data and we'll put it back in the repository in its new form. So the purpose of this and the objective is to provide information that will help improve the planning and management of your maintenance and support activities. And what I'd like to say just at this point is that we're quite new to this in the fact that the database that we have on maintenance and support is quite new. We originally started with development and enhancement, where we have 5,700 projects in the database, whereas the maintenance and support side of things is quite new. And if you have feedback for us, we welcome it. Naturally, we'll welcome more than anything some additional data. But anything you see today, if you think, well, no, they should be asking another question, or I need an answer to another question, then we would appreciate your feedback. So why do we need to improve maintenance and support management? I guess just like we did, initially everybody seems to focus on development and enhancement. But the fact is that 80% of IT budget goes elsewhere. And most of you will have seen the Gartner report, and the one I saw last was 2006, which reflects this in the breakdown of it. And included in that 80% is the cost of application maintenance, of running your help desk, your support and your ongoing training. So the data that I've used in this presentation comes actually from both repositories, because we have useful data in our development and enhancement repository that is helpful to people for their maintenance and support. And quite recently we've done an extract of small enhancement data out of the development and enhancement repository. This is data of a functional size less than 20 function points. So it might take you a couple of weeks, 3 weeks to build at the most. And that sort of enhancement often gets done by people in maintenance and support. So we thought that would be useful. And some of that is reflected in this presentation. We also have in that repository defect data in the first 30 days after an application has gone live. And once again, that can fall into the area of maintenance and support. So it was useful for us to analyze that. And we have useful breakdowns for enhancement in which people spend their time in what roles and what tasks are they doing for enhancement. And then, of course, the actual maintenance and support repository itself, where we have the data for now, we're actually close to 500. But in this particular presentation, I've used data from 478 applications. It's a reasonable number. I wish it was 4,000, but it's a reasonable number for statistical analysis. We can easily, once things get rolling, we can easily get to from 500 to 1,000 once people understand what we're doing and take an interest in the data and start sending us some of their data for analysis. So let's have a look at the maintenance and support. These are the questions some of you might have seen once before when I gave a talk, and I'm still using these questions because none of you have come back and said they're the wrong questions or I need extra ones. These are the questions that we're trying to answer by collecting data.